Davis froze halfway up the ladder. I could see his shoulders trembling, his breath clouding in the air. "What did you say?" he whispered. But no one had spoken. Miller was still below, covering the rear with his rifle, eyes scanning the shadows. "Keep climbing," he ordered. Davis reached for the hatch. His fingers touched the handle and stopped. It was warm, burning hot. He jerked his hand back, skin peeling where he'd touched the metal. Then, above us, the faint light through the cracks went dark. Something was moving on the other side, slowly, pacing. Miller motioned for silence. We waited, hearts hammering. The air was wrong again, thicker, charged, humming with the same vibration we'd heard before. I looked down the corridor. The blue glow was back, pulsing faintly, and for a second, I saw them, the soldiers from Room 09, standing in the tunnel, watching, still as statues. Miller climbed up beside Davis and tried the hatch again. It wouldn't budge. He shoved harder. Nothing. Then from above, a single thud, soft, like a boot stepping directly over our heads. Davis lost it. He started pounding on the hatch, shouting, "Let us out! We're down here!" The echo came back almost instantly, his own voice. Distorted, warped, whispering instead of yelling. "We're down here. We're down here." That was when I realized the truth. The footprints, the voices, the repetition. We weren't in the same place anymore, or maybe we never left it. Miller turned to me, eyes wide, face pale. "This base, it's repeating itself." Before I could answer, the light above us snapped back on, bright white, blinding. The hatch swung open by itself. Cold daylight spilled through. Davis didn't wait. He climbed fast, desperate. I followed. When I pulled myself out, the snow burned my eyes. The base looked the same, empty, silent. But the air was still, too still. Miller came up last, slamming the hatch shut behind him. For a long while, none of us spoke. The sun was lower now, setting in the same direction it had when we arrived. Except my watch hadn't moved. The hands were frozen at the same time, 17:42. We made for the truck. Davis kept glancing behind, muttering under his breath. I tried not to look, but when I did, I saw it, footprints trailing in the snow, leading from the barracks to the hatch, 6 pairs. But we were only 3. Miller saw them too. His hand shook on the ignition. "We don't talk about this," he said quietly. "Not to anyone." The engine started. The radio crackled to life for the first time in days. "Echo Team, this is command. Report status." "Echo Team, do you copy?" Miller grabbed the receiver, voice trembling. "This is Echo." Static. Then our own voices came through. "Echo Team, this is command." And beneath the static, faint but clear, the whisper we'd heard in the dark, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. "You never left the base." The transmission cut. The snow began to fall again. We drove in silence, the horizon swallowing us. For a moment, none of us moved. The rows of cots stretched into the dark. The faces of the men motionless except for that one, Thompson, who had just spoken. His lips hung open, breath rattling like air through water. Miller raised his rifle. "Don't move," he whispered. Thompson's eyes rolled toward us, pale and clouded. The veins in his neck stood out, black and webbed like something had spread under the skin. I took a step closer before Miller grabbed my arm. "He's dead, Private. Look at his eyes." But then Thompson sat up. His back arched like something was pulling his spine from behind. The cot screeched against the floor. The others started moving too, slow at first, then jerking, twitching, as if waking from a long nightmare. The smell hit us next. Not death, not decay, but something fouler. Wet earth, copper. The air shimmered again. And for a heartbeat, the room looked different. Not a barrack, a morgue, tags hanging from the cots. Frozen bodies, stitched, burned, bullet holes still fresh. Then it was gone. Back to the dim blue glow. Back to the cots, only now every single soldier was sitting upright, staring at us. Davis panicked and fired. The muzzle flash lit the room, echoing like thunder. Thompson fell back, but there was no blood, no wound. Just the sound of his head hitting the metal bed frame. And then slowly he began to rise again. Miller grabbed the radio pack from his shoulder. "Command, this is Echo Team. Do you read?" "We've got..." Static. Then a voice came through, faint but clear. It was Miller's own. "Stay out of the basement." He froze. The receiver slipped from his hand. That's when the humming started. Low, metallic, vibrating through the walls and into our bones. The soldiers on the cots began whispering in unison. their voices overlapping, a rhythm, a chant. Words that didn't belong to any language I knew. One of them stood unsteady and began walking toward us. His boots left wet prints on the floor, the same pattern we'd seen in every building above. Davis screamed, fired again. The round tore through the man's chest, but he didn't fall. He just kept coming, mouth opening wider than humanly possible. The chant spilling out louder, echoing down the corridor behind us. Miller shouted, "Fall back, move!" We ran through the door, down the passage that seemed to twist and narrow with every step. The light followed us, that faint blue glow chasing our shadows as if it was alive. Somewhere behind, the chanting turned into something else, a scream that didn't sound human. We reached the ladder to the hatch. Davis climbed first. His hands were shaking, boots slipping on the rungs. I was right behind him when the sound stopped. Cut off, sudden as if the air itself had been muted. Then I heard it. A whisper right beside my ear, though no one was there. "You're already below." The whispering lingered long after the light died. It wasn't loud and it was close. Like breath against the ear, words crawling over the edge of understanding. My flashlight flickered once before sputtering out completely. Davis cursed under his breath, fumbling for matches. Miller whispered, "Nobody move." For a few seconds, the only sound was the dripping water and the faint rustle of fabric as someone's hand shook against their weapon. Then, from down the corridor, came the unmistakable sound of boots. Not ours, marching, slow, deliberate, in perfect rhythm, a platoon's cadence echoing through the dark. We stood frozen. The sound grew louder, filling the tunnel until I could feel the vibration in my chest. But there were no shadows moving, no light to reveal them. Just that sound, as if a whole company of soldiers was walking right through us. And then, silence again, instant, like it had never been there at all. Davis finally struck a match. The tiny flame flared, painting the walls orange. That's when we saw them. The handprints we'd passed before. They were moving, slowly sliding downward, leaving trails of dark moisture behind, like the wall itself was bleeding. The match went out. Miller whispered, "We're pulling back, now." We turned to retreat, retracing our steps through the corridor. But something had changed. The path was wrong. The angles twisted. The air felt thicker. It was the same hallway, but the doors weren't where they'd been. Even the stairs, gone. Panic started to bite at the edges of our discipline. Davis began muttering, "We came from here. We came from here." But the tunnel just kept stretching, the end never getting closer. Every few seconds, we'd pass a doorway marked Room 09, over and over again. Like a loop we couldn't break. I heard Miller's voice tighten. "It's in the air." Gas, maybe. We're hallucinating. But I knew it wasn't gas. The cold was too real. The smell too strong. That same rot and iron from the hatch above. But deeper now, crawling inside the lungs. We stopped when we saw the light. A faint glow, pale blue, spilling out from under a nearby door. The same stenciled numbers, 09. Miller looked at us, jaw tight. "Last check. We open it, then we're out." "Understood?" No one answered. He pushed the door. Inside, the air shimmered like heat over asphalt. Rows of cots lined the room, each one occupied. At first I thought they were bodies. But they weren't dead. Their chests rose and fell shallowly, faces gray. Eyes open, staring upward at nothing. "Soldiers, frozen mid-breath, uniforms of our own unit." Davis staggered forward, whispering, That's Thompson." But he was... The man's eyes turned slowly toward us. The movement was stiff, unnatural. His lips cracked open, and in that same whispering voice from the dark, he spoke. "You shouldn't have come back." The thump echoed through the floorboards like a heartbeat buried beneath our feet. For a moment, none of us breathed. Miller motioned for us to form up, and we surrounded the hatch. The air had gone colder, noticeably colder. Frost was spreading along the metal hinges, blooming like veins under skin. "Open it," Miller said. Davis hesitated, his hand trembling as he gripped the handle. "Sir, whatever's down there." "That's an order." The latch groaned, and a puff of air rose up, damp, metallic and foul, like old blood and stagnant water. A staircase descended into darkness, narrow and steep. I flicked on my torch. The beam cut through dust and moisture, revealing concrete walls lined with pipes. Water dripped somewhere below, steady as a clock. We went down one by one. Each step felt heavier than the last, the boards creaking under our boots. The deeper we went, the more I felt it, the silence pressing in, the strange stillness that didn't belong in a place built by men. At the bottom was a long corridor, maybe 30 meters, lit faintly by a single bulb swinging on its wire. The walls were marked with handprints. Not painted, not scratched, stained, like something had seeped out of the skin and burned into the surface. "Looks like the supply tunnels," Davis whispered. Miller raised his rifle. "Move." We advanced slowly, our lights cutting across empty rooms, storage crates, overturned chairs, papers scattered everywhere. It looked like people had left in a hurry. Then I noticed something. The footprints were back. The same size, the same tread pattern, leading away from us this time. They weren't dry. Wet prints, glistening as if freshly made. I stopped. "Miller, someone's down here." He nodded, signaling silence. We followed the trail through the corridor until it ended at a heavy steel door. A number was stenciled across it, Rooms 09, but the paint had been smeared, like someone had tried to erase it. There was movement on the other side, faint like breathing. "Whoever you are, identify yourself," Miller barked. His voice echoed, came back distorted, as if the room itself repeated him. Then the breathing stopped. A faint click echoed behind us. I turned and for a split second, caught sight of something, someone standing at the far end of the tunnel. A silhouette in uniform, motionless, watching. "Hold fire!" Miller hissed. But before any of us could move, the bulb above flickered once, twice, and went out. Darkness swallowed us whole, and from somewhere in that black corridor came a whisper. Not German, not English, something older. Something that sounded almost like a prayer. We arrived at the outpost just before dusk. The air was thick with the smell of diesel and rot, and the snow crunched beneath our boots like brittle glass. Command had gone silent 2 days ago. No radio, no signals, so they sent us a 6-man reconnaissance unit to find out what went wrong. From the outside, the base looked untouched. The barbed wire perimeter still stood. The guard tower had its searchlight intact, though it hung crooked, swaying in the wind. There were no signs of a struggle, no shell holes, no bodies, not even blood. Just the silence, that kind that presses on your eardrums until you start hearing things that aren't there. Sergeant Miller went ahead, rifle raised. "Check the barracks first," he said. His voice was flat, but I caught the flicker in his eyes. We'd all seen enough to know when something was off. Inside the first barrack, the bunks were still made. The coffee pot sat half full, frozen in place. Someone had been here not long ago. Then I noticed the floor. Boot prints, dozens of them, stamped into the frost-covered boards. The odd thing was, they all led inward, toward the center of the room. None led out. "Looks like they gathered up," said Davis, crouching beside the prints. "Maybe evac'd through the back." But there was no back door. Just walls, solid. We swept the rest of the building, mess hall, comm station, infirmary. Nothing. No men, no signs of evacuation. But in each room we found the same thing, those prints, always leading in, never out. As the sun began to set, the light turned that sickly yellow-gray that makes every shadow feel alive. We set up in the command hut to check the radios. The equipment was dead, but the room wasn't empty. Someone, or something, had left a message scratched into the metal table. "Stay out of the basement." Davis laughed it off, nervous. "Scare tactic, maybe. Kraut's trying to mess with us?" Miller didn't answer. He just stared at the trap door in the floor, the one that led below. The handle was streaked with frost like it had been opened recently. That's when we heard it, faint from underneath us. A dragging sound, slow, wet, like boots sliding across a flooded floor. We froze. Then just as suddenly the sound stopped. Miller whispered, "Who's down there?" No answer, just the echo of his own voice, and a single thump from beneath the boards.